We are live for the Netdata Office Hours episode 12. We'll be having a user panel discussion, our second one, and I will be, of course, presenting the panelists we have with us. So stay tuned. We'll just wait 1 or 2 more minutes to see if more people join, and we'll get this started ASAP. So looking forward to this. I think probably should be okay for us to start. So let me just quickly share my screen just for the intro as usual, and we'll jump straight to the interesting part of the office hours. So as I mentioned, this office hours is the user panel discussion. The agenda for this is just focus on the spotlight that is the user panel discussions. And with us, we'll have Carel, Oliver Chalk, and we're going to have Mike, but there seems to be some kind of some issue, so I was not able to reach out to Mike. We'll probably try to get Mike on a future one, but yeah, today we'll have Carel and Oliver, and I'll stop the stream and just have the focus on the guys. So let me close the screen. If you want to follow, of course, the LinkedIn from Carel and Oliver, you have the links. There's reference also to Continuum Trading where Oliver is working at, but we'll hear more from them on the panel discussion. So welcome, guys, and thank you for accepting the invitation to be here with me. It's really a pleasure to be having users of Netdata being able to share their experience and all the feedback you have for the community. So welcome and thanks for the time.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Likewise.
So we'll get started. So the first question we have for you guys is give us a brief introduction, share your infrastructure details, your setup, how you use Netdata, so people that are listening to us can understand what's your use case and what you're using Netdata for. So probably starting with Carel as the first one.
All right. I work for a company that does a sort of a lift and shift of SAP installations from on-prem customer on-prem installations to cloud, and then we manage that cloud infrastructure for the customer. So for them, it's a huge cost saving. For us, it's lots of work. We rely heavily on time and monitoring. We use Netdata as an example as part of our monitoring suite. It is basically combined out of Netdata that is installed on each instance in the environment. We make absolutely sure that we catch every instance, whether it is a test instance. We have like a golden image that has all the basics that needs to be on an instance already set up. That way we eliminate, the afterthought, especially with monitoring. There's always, it seems like an afterthought that people do monitoring of a system. It's the last thing they do if they remember. It's like backups, it's not something they install first. I'm part of a team of just 4 people. I'm the team lead. We've got 2 programmers and a ELK or elastic stack specialist. And then I'm the sysadmin in the team. We do everything on SUSE because SAP is certified for SUSE. So, it's one of those things. Then, of course, like I said, we have monitoring. Netdata is the choice of using Netdata on each instance is, the primary reason for it is the per second monitoring, the metrics that you get every second. Every second there's an update. We use that to do fault finding. So we have, infra guys that will need to solve problems. They know that there's a problem because monitoring told them that there's a problem. But to see it physically, they jump on Netdata for that. And it's something that we can't do without. It's not a watered down overtime graph of the metrics that we think should be there. It is every possible metric that has anything to do with that instance in that environment. That includes the cloud environment. We monitor that with Netdata. We have scripts that run that gather data and that we populate dashboards with. So if somebody needs to fault find, and that's the main reason we have Netdata, it's to assist the infra team in fault finding whatever they might find that they need to look at. The amount of data that we get from Netdata there's nothing that comes close. You can look at any other monitoring software; it doesn't come close. Like I said, we also push system logs, SecOp logs, application logs, and of course the Netdata logs into ELK with Logstash. We do that for 2 reasons. Logstash, ELK allows us to extrapolate data over time, and I mean long periods of time. A lot of our customers are people that hog data. They are pharmaceuticals and big corporates that they don't let go of data. And ELK is super awesome when it comes to storing data and allowing to search that data fast. And we use that to correlate whatever happens on a system or an event that happened in the infrastructure to how we can map that out and use that to be as a trigger or an alarm or a trip point in the future, so that if we see these set of data points pop up again, we populate the ticket automatically with previous instances where we had the exact same conditions and the exact same alarms and trip points, and also link that to what we did to solve it. So that's it makes it very easy for infra guys or the SecOp guys or whoever's issued the ticket to get some more background. Also, because of the fact that the Netdata data stream that we have is for 36 hours. We set it to 36 hours. So we capture 36 hours and then we roll that data. But in that time, it's been pushed to ELK, and there we keep it for years. Our shortest time of saving it is 7 years, and that's for an Australian company. The rest are all 15, 25 years that they want to keep the data. So I'm not going to go into that, but for us, it is it's one of those tools that just fits perfectly. It's not I haven't seen anything else that we can use in replacing Netdata for what we built. Is there anything that you think I missed?
No, I think it was really perfect explanation. So a very kind of collaborative environment with ELK Stack and Netdata. And
I did miss something.
Go ahead.
When we started this whole deployment of Netdata, we found that there's a lot of discrepancy in time. When we only picked it up because of Netdata. So our deployments includes a rubidium atomic clock at each deployment that gives us nanosecond accuracy across the whole platform. And we don't use NTP, we use PPT. And that has made such a difference in correlating data and events, because we can literally narrow it down to nanoseconds from within a space where we say, yes, this happened, and 71 nanoseconds later, this happened. And we pick that up and we log and catalog it, and then we can use that in machine learning. And that's how we sort of preempt, a similar event when it happens, with, of course, all the data that goes into the ticket.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very nice setup, Carel, and thanks for sharing all the details.
Not a problem.
Yeah, very impressive. I think ours is a lot smaller. We're a 2-person team. I've got I guess we're now 3 since Monday, but 2 people for most of our history. And my business partner wears this sort of data scientist hat. So I'm in charge of building and deploying all the systems. And so I guess our use case.
The perfect job.
Yeah, I get to deploy my own stuff. So I have no one else but myself to blame when it blows up. Which it rarely does, thankfully, but from time to time, it keeps me, I don't know, young, maybe. We'll see. Anyway, yeah, so basically we use Netdata across our distributed system. So I guess we have deployments in different geographies for latency reasons. We're a trading firm. So if we have an exchange that we're participating in, we will most likely deploy co-located, which in the space I'm in, the cryptocurrency space, is just in some specific availability zone in AWS, and maybe some games beyond that. There's no actual, at least as far as we're concerned, none of our providers have like physical co-location. It's all sort of like, technically physical, but it's all via the cloud. So it's mainly monitoring cloud deployments that we use it for. We have about 8 nodes at the moment, and yeah, we run a simple stack, not quite yet at the golden image level. I haven't found a nice sort of way to build those. So, we use Ansible for deployment, and we start from an Ubuntu base image that is reasonably standardized, and then we deploy Netdata on top. That's the only thing we deploy manually, and then after that, Ansible sort of runs it from there and deploys out all our own services and stuff on top. And I guess, when I was looking for something in this space, the idea behind it was to know if we've got CPU congestion, because where latency and sort of P99 latency is quite important. You want to know how often we're fighting each other for the CPU on our different deployments. And I guess that also lets us save money. Like if we're over deployed in a particular location, we can also see that with backdata to prove it. And then I guess correlating with okay, we had an incident where we lost money. Was were the physical resources a problem? Were we having like network dropouts? Were we having abnormalities in CPU usage and pressures on different parts of the system? We don't really run much disk usage or databases in production because it's usually sort of drop copied and stored away. But I guess filling up the disk with logs can happen if trading picks up or whatever. So getting alerts for that is also awesome. And I guess as a team of one, being able to deploy to like 5 regions with 8 servers running like 5 or 6 different custom services, all self-built without much grief. Like in terms of net data time invested, I'm probably at 3 or 4 days, of 10-hour work days in terms of learning it and getting it live. And I would say the metrics are pretty sophisticated out of the box. The only thing I really customized was like systemd monitoring and reporting and the alert levels for different like thresholds that we wanted on the system utilization. So yeah, I would say I'm pretty impressed with the ROI on time has been the main thing for me.
Awesome. Very nice setup as well, Oliver. Thanks for the details.
Good.
Then probably moving to the next question. I know we already briefly probably spoke a bit about that, but starting with you, Carel. So the main reason why you started using Netdata and the particular problem that you initially wanted to solve, if you want to explore a bit on more details on those two things.
Well, how did I get to use Netdata was somebody told me about Netdata, and I wasn't prepared for what I saw in Netdata. This was about 6-7 years ago, and it's just flipping amazing. So in the current setup, we use Netdata because we've got about 43 customers that has got each one of them has got their own SAP environment. And we have a single follow the sun team of infrastructure engineers that has to know what's happening, get alerts, and then of course go and fix it. And their biggest gripe when I started here was that monitoring sucked. They didn't like monitoring at all. It was not useful. When I built our first customer out with Netdata, these guys immediately changed their attitude towards monitoring and started to come up with ideas how we can, monitor more things they want to see. And it all depends. Your basis guys that work on the SAP application stack, they will have a list of things that they want to see. So we incorporated a lot of Solution Manager. That's the SAP monitoring platform. We incorporate a lot of their data, and it's pretty easy to pull that data into Netdata. Now you have dashboards that is built for a team function. So we have a basis dashboard. We have, infrastructure dashboard. We have SecOps dashboards. We have a dashboard for the network engineers. It's amazing how easily deployable and customizable Netdata is. Like I said, we only have a 4-man team we've got 43 customers, and they have vast infrastructure. They have, it includes the dev, the test, the pre-prod, the prod. Everything is monitored. We actually have a script that runs in the AWS environment, for instance, that does a describe of the environment, and we correlate that data that we get back with what we know is in Netdata. And if anything is missing, we have major alarms going off. The SecOps guys go crazy, and of course, we need to deploy that, and we want to know why. How was that instance put there without Netdata on it? Because we're all supposed to use the one golden image. Everything is built on top of that. It is. It was a game changer for us. You work on a couple of hundred nodes in a customer's environment, and if you don't have consistency, and if you don't have a source of truth on your environment, you're in for trouble. That's for sure. So we fixed that. That was about the second thing that we did after fixing time. It was fixing the source of truth. Your environment is, we scrape every piece of data that we get. And the reason we use Netdata is because we can build a dashboard for it, and it's easy. That's one of the major reasons. And then, of course, you have customers like the pharmaceuticals. They have air-gapped platforms. So whatever you build, monitoring must be able to run in that environment on its own and be as effective as the main environment. It's one of the things that Netdata allows you to do is it's one config file, and you have a whole setup that's exactly the same in every environment. So we use Ansible as well, but that's for minor changes, and tests, and it's not our main way of deployment. Our deployment comes with, if it's built, it has to have everything on it. It has a hash number of the config file. It checks it on our JIT server. If it's different, then we know that that config file is old and it's updated. It does that automatically. We have got a bunch of scripts that does that. I'm a very pro JIT user. I actually use JIT to log and catalog all my etc files on every system, just because you have a lot of people working on it, and you can see who made the last change, or that there's a last change made, and you can revert in a single command. So it's helped me a lot. But that's it. That's the major reason for Netdata in this environment. It's hyper configurable. I can't, every time I think I know the edge of what Netdata can do, it's not even close. It's scalable like you can't believe.
Yeah, cool. And I think I can try to summarize a bit in a nutshell. So as you said, it's the easiness of having this golden image, standardized monitoring setup. You can deploy, scale it however you want, and have the full visibility of all the metrics that you can get out of Netdata. So that's really, really.
Yeah, customizable dashboards. Flipping out, there's nothing better than that.
Cool. Thanks, Carel. So Oliver, I know probably you have a different experience, but just to check if you have anything you'd like to comment or add on this question.
I mean, yeah, we started using Netdata for two reasons. One is like the automatic collection and back storage of performance metrics for incident analysis. Luckily, that's not needed too much for us. We usually sort of keep everything within band. But the other one that was the major selling point that got us started was the alerting around particular hardware, or for us in this case software events as well. So the main one is systemd alerting, which I think we'll talk about in a bit. Being able to monitor status of systemd containers or services. I would have thought something like that was like pretty common, but when I had a look, Netdata kind of did it, and a whole bunch else, and I couldn't find anything else that really did it. So it was a pretty easy choice at that point.
So
It's
probably,
like I said, if you compare other monitoring software, I've been a sysadmin for quite a while, Linux sysadmin for quite a while. I can tell you there's not a single one I can compare with Netdata. Not a single one.
nice. Thanks for sharing the experience, Carol. So probably the question you're jumping into, Oliver, is the one I will throw to you next. So if there's any particular capability or feature that you find yourself using the most, so probably it's kind of a punchline for you to explore what you're trying to share a while ago.
Yeah, no, a really good question that you raise. I find myself using systemd monitoring the most, as I spoiled rudely. But yeah, we kind of, I guess, when you build services and software, you build the service and then you deploy it. And a big part of the deployment is like the soft metrics and the hardware metrics, as I call them. But the other one is your own code doing something you don't expect and exiting, right, with an unclean exit code or status and stuff like that. And I guess why that's particularly interesting for us is we build our code in such a way that we're extremely conservative. If we ever see anything out of band, we want to shut down, clean up, and raise the alarm. And so we do that a lot. Luckily, with time, you kind of explore the full surface area of edge cases, and you determine, is it actually something that is irrecoverable, or can you write the recovery code for it? But our first reaction to anything, even a little bit hard, is to just give up and capitulate and shut down. In almost all of our services. Now, obviously, you can't do that in everything. I'm sure you wouldn't want your pacemaker to just, give up, capitulate, and shut down. But for us, where we're trading and I guess continuing to run implies taking risk. We want to be very sure that we're operating on known data within an environment that feels normal to us. Latencies that are normal, these sorts of things. So, if anything breaches what we thought was the maximum band, capitulate and shut down is our move. And that is only feasible because we get almost instantaneous alerting from Netdata when that happens. And so, we have an aggregation through Netdata of all our system, D services. And so across our distributed network, we know if something exits. And so it gives the software developers a lot of freedom to write very, conservative code that basically makes a lot of assumptions, but checks those assumptions. And if they ever break, immediately just, runs the shutdown sequence. And so, yeah, that's kind of how we build all of our code. And then obviously you'll find something that you can't afford to shut down, and you'll work on designs that allow that to be possible. But our initial reaction to anything is almost always to shut down and allow Netdata to just tell us that it happened, and then look into it. And of course, with the logs that we've collected, if it's a performance-induced latency or something, we can see that. And then I guess we also use Elk, similar to Carel. So we can also then look into our own service logs. What was the raw message that we got that we were unhappy with? Okay, yeah, ask the exchange why they sent that. Okay, no good reason. Okay, let's make a decision around how we handle this in the future. So yeah, that's the typical workflow. And we find that, I guess, has resulted in virtually zero, software-induced trading losses. A lot of downtime for sure, but that's much more favorable than software-induced errors. We'd rather have downtime, so we use it for that.
Awesome. Thanks for the share, Oliver. Carol, on this question, any comment or anything you'd like to add?
No, I can actually see how his his setup works. Sorry for that. it is one of those things that once you've used Netdata, it's difficult to find things that are wrong with it. But for my question would be, in the trading, how do you quickly recover if you shut down a machine?
We shut down a service, and we have basically because we use System D for everything that we run ourselves. We essentially have a remote System D CLI tool that basically allows us to, I guess through like a bastion or something of that kind, send a restart signal. So we can basically, using glob patterns and stuff, stop fleets of services and start them. So this can be used to, and also reset the failed counter on System D. So if, for instance, we hit some sort of out of normal volatility in the markets, and that trips potentially misconfigured like fail safes, and we think they're misconfigured, we can see from our P&L and our reporting that we haven't actually screwed up, then we can just basically issue a global reset failed on that type of System D unit, and we name them all the same, or like using some sort of pattern that is glob friendly, and then also issue a start. And so that's how we can do sort of mass resets and starts if these things are tripped.
I can see massive use of machine learning in that environment.
Yeah. If it's not my expertise, so I haven't touched it. Maybe my business partner or someone in the future will join us and enlighten us. But yeah, I know Netdata has the sort of the abnormality detection, and it is fairly accurate. It kind of reacts every time the market moves and CPU spikes and something happens. It's obviously a lagging indicator, can't monetize that just yet, but definitely I think this area is an interesting one, the sort of automated correlation, and for us especially, we have a lot of like all of our like CPU usage is sort of driven by events, like market events, and so it's all highly correlated. Everything happens at the same time, which gives a lot of spikes, but also gives a lot of patterns to, I guess, try and recognize.
Yeah, we started using that, and it made life a lot easier for us.
Cool. Thanks for the follow-up on this question, and nice question as well, Carel, for Oliver. Probably before we go through the planned questions, we actually have one from the audience on the chat, so let me bring it up. So it's for you, Carel, from Luis that is watching us. The question from Luis is, how do you manage that scale of data using for Netdata? How do you manage this kind of volumes?
Okay, so our each environment or each customer has its own elk stack. The scale of Netdata only comes into play on the amount of data that is collected. But we haven't found the edge of the amount of data that we can shift with Logstash yet. It's a pretty robust setup and a piece of software. So we scaling our rollout of use of Netdata. I think if we didn't do the per role dashboards, we would have run into some problems. But for instance, some of the instances are HANA databases, and of course they are deployed with a different set of dashboards for the DBAs, and then of course some are the SAP backend engines. They are deployed with a different set for the basis engineers. And then, the rest all have the standard sysadmin or infrastructure dashboards that is used by, your normal sysadmin that has to go and find out why this machine is slow, or why this alert popped up for disk usage, or, So it's actually one of the things that that we have not run into as a problem yet, and that is scaling Netdata and the deployment of Netdata. Our biggest infrastructure is a company in Germany, and they last time I checked, it was over 700 and something instances that was running in that infrastructure. That includes your your dev, your test, because we monitor everything, every single. If a developer writes code, we want to see in the beginning what the effect of that code is before it gets to production, before it is deployed and used in the infrastructure. So from the very get-go of everything is monitored. We don't miss anything, and I haven't found problem with the scaling of Netdata yet. I'm sure that if we do, we can give Ego a call, ask him to help.
For sure. We'll jump on it immediately.
That's it.
Actually, there's a follow-up question. I think it's related on the fact that you mentioned that you store a lot of historical data on the Elk stack, on Logstash. So as you mentioned, you have customers that you store the data for 25 years even.
Yeah.
And probably that's also a reason why you don't store this type of data on Netdata. But the question from Luis is why you don't store more longer retention of data.
Yeah. So Luis, the specific use case for us is solving a problem at this moment and have at least 36 hours of data, to trend on the dashboard, on the Netdata dashboard, that we used to, look at what's happening. We chose 36 hours because, we want to see what happens if something was run overnight. You don't have people sitting, especially with large infrastructures, you don't have people sitting there and watching screens the whole time. That's why we rely on alerting and anomaly detection. The main reason we have Netdata on each system is to allow us to do investigation. It's a per second monitoring. It gives us a clear view of what's happening at this moment on that system. The shifting of the data, including Netdata, into Logstash and then to Elk, it allows us to review that data, and you can pull it into Netdata again and say, what happened last year? What did the dashboard look like in this period using this data set? You can do that. It's a bit of fiddling around, and we normally do that when we do looking for similar events that happened in the past. The quicker we can write something that will create an alert and populate that ticket with similar events and similar data sets, the quicker the guy that's going to actually look at it and that knows the system, he gets that information. He doesn't have to go and hunt for it. It's right there. It's just a link to the data. And they are working on a script that automatically pull the data set and add the data set onto a intermediate server that will be able to enable us to view that data set through dashboards that we used. But for the current use, we only use 36 because you don't need more. Normally, when you do fault finding, you're trying to fix what is happening now. When we do analyzing of what happened and go through the 5 whys and then trying to find a way that we can automate the next fix for this. Then we look at longer periods of data, and for that we use Elk. It's a great store and a great search for data. I hope I answered that question for Louis.
Yeah, he's saying thanks. It makes total sense what you shared, so it's totally understandable. Yeah. So then, getting back on track on the questions we have prepared. So I think it's something we already touched on the conversation. So for you, Carel, what is the main reason for continuing to use Netdata at the moment?
Well, the per second monitoring metrics, that is a big thing, not only for me, but for everybody that use it. The ability to add on to Netdata, and I wouldn't say effortless, but it's very easy to do. Building new dashboards, adding tests for anomaly detection. It is one of those things that we won't be able to live without. And then there's certain constraints, like I said before, where we are forced to have certain parts of the infrastructure for certain customers air-gapped. Netdata is perfect for that. I can't. You have no duplication of infrastructure. So if you have a Munin server, say for instance you used Munin, then you had to have to build a Munin server in an air-gapped environment. For us, it's no need. Netdata does exactly what we need. Our silos for keeping that data separate.
So I think we lost you for a bit, but yeah, you're back. So as you said, yeah, that you're back. So you could not live without Netdata, as you said. So
no, I won't be able to monitor 43 different SAP environments in all their forms with the small team that I have, that we have with anything else. I haven't found anything else. I'm honest when I say that, and I have looked. We've actually employed 2 guys looking for, some companies, they don't like the idea of using open source. I don't know why. I nearly swear it now, but so we employed 2 guys to do that research for us. Given what we want from our monitoring, there wasn't anything that could tick the boxes, not even close.
Awesome. Glad to hear Netdata is being so much
you stuck
helpful
with us. Yeah, you stuck with us.
Gladly. So probably moving to the next question. We are almost like 15 minutes to the end of this. So let me move on to the next one. So for Oliver, what is the main point or challenge you currently have, and how is Netdata helping you to solve it or solve them?
Talk slowly, Oliver. It's 15 minutes, mate.
No, I think there's another question after this for me. So I can just draw it out on the last one, get it in right on time. But obviously, like, the main one is a problem of our own doing, but with good reason is the outages, right? And so being able to I guess respond quickly and get like pushed. So I guess we have to pair. Netdata doesn't do that out of the box, but we pair it with OpsGenie, which I will avoid bashing on this call. But I'm a much bigger fan of Netdata than the other product in that suite. But anyway, it works. So that's what I could say about it. And essentially, when we have like 24/7 trading. And one of the things with, I guess, 24/7 trading is you probably want 24/7 a human, if not looking at the trading, like able to look at it within short notice. And so the way we solve that is people in different geographies are scheduled onto an on-call roster. It's not crazy. I think a lot of companies do this. I'm sure Carel has a Chase the Sun roster is probably much more advanced than ours. But we have some part-timers that have an understanding of the system and kind of just carry around the on-call roster in their pocket, or have a dashboard open. And for them, I guess Opsgenie's, Opsgenie, but like Netdata through Opsgenie's alerts for us mean they can monitor the price in the P&L to make sure like nothing's like fundamentally changed in sort of humans, I guess, are pretty good pattern recognizers. If the chart used to go up and to the right, now goes down and to the left, I guess still to the right, down and to the right, something's up, and either stop the trading or call someone. But beyond that, I guess the thing that is harder to see is all these services running in the back end, right? You don't really have charts that, I mean, maybe we could build like some sort of cool dashboard with lights of what's on and what's off, but we don't have that. And so for us, that's Netdata telling us, hey, this thing that used to be running is no longer running and it didn't exit cleanly. And if the disk is filling up and that's going to cause us to lose logs, we prefer not to lose logs, and so we get alerts ahead of time that maybe volumes are beyond expectations and what we're provisioned, and we may just dump some of these sort of like gzip logs we've got backdated. We'll just get rid of those. And so the main thing for us is, I guess, incident response is what we use Netdata for, but live, not so much like figuring out what went wrong after, though that is one of its core use cases, but reacting in a live environment. The alerts help us. So right now nothing is ringing me, so I assume everything is running. And surprisingly, that assumption has really never been broken. I think Netdata has never sort of missed the system D event chain since I've configured it. At least I've never caught it missing one. So, and I'm not forever vigilant, but I can notice if something's not running usually, because something will disappear from normal operations. And yeah, it's always been very quick to catch that. Sometimes so quick that I'll accidentally sort of uncleanly exit something, immediately restart it, and it still harasses me. So maybe if it could become a bit slower, then it would be a bit more amenable to my own flaws. But yeah, it's really reliable for that. So from that perspective, that I think if you had to put like dollar value, is number one for us. Like we've made, I guess we've had the most business benefit from the reliability of alerting around obviously hardware metrics are reliable at alerting, but also the system D status for us is a huge one.
Good. Thanks for sharing, Oliver, and hope that it doesn't trigger an alert for you until the end of this session.
Yeah,
and
Netdata is a love-hate relationship. That is.
All monitoring now.
Yeah. So good. I think we then can move to the last two questions, and one for each one of you. So for you, Carel, how is Netdata helping you achieve your organization goals and objectives overall?
As you can imagine, these SAP environments are heavily regulated, and being able to respond and solve our issues, and have the data to do a write-up afterwards on how this happened. You must remember, these environments don't belong to us. We see them as our environments, but they don't belong to us. They belong to the customer, and the customer always wants to know what happened. And it is one of the things of having the data available, and being able to go back over time and say, okay, the first time this happened, we did a manual stop-start. The second time it happened, we did a manual stop-start. The third time it happened, we automatically did a stop-start. And the reason we did that is because we now have the data collected to say, if these metrics are met, this is the actions from that. We do that to save the customer money, to save time, and to be agile in our response. Because if things are done automatically, things that were done manually. Then the guys that were to do the stop starting, they are now free to concentrate on other things. So we can make progress in how we fine tune an environment, because we have the time to do it. If you run your team as a bunch of soldiers that is just reacting the whole time, then you're fighting a losing battle. You're not gonna really make headway. You then rely on other people to do the fine tuning for you. For us, it was one of the requirements for good monitoring was to enable our infra teams to, because these environments are big, and we don't have huge teams. So for us, one of the mandates were that our monitoring and alerting will free up the infra teams and the basis teams to go and do stuff that will help the customer more, things that we can get bonus points for. And our bosses like to stand on the stage and say, this quarter we did this and this and this, which was not part of the mandated work, but it helped the customer with this and this and this, and this is how much money they saved. They like doing that, and for us to enable them to stand there and say things like that, we use Netdata to free up our people. So I think that's it.
Yeah, great example and great answer. So Netdata helping you focus on areas of more value to users and keep the ordinary stuff automated and
Absolutely. It's and I must say, it's if Netdata like Oliver said was not reliable, you won't be able to trust the data. You won't be able to take your eyes off it. So because Netdata is reliable, you can now focus on automation and focus on things that has good value.
that add value.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Carel.
No problem.
So then moving to the last question for you, Oliver, before we open to some questions from the audience. So if you could think about some use case or troubleshooting scenario where Netdata has helped you in the past, if you could give a short example or short story that you remember, and if you'd like to share it.
Yep. This is probably why I had access to the questions before to have prepared a short story. I mean, probably a story that is, I mean, I guess luckily not too frequent, but one you would probably expect is essentially looking into extreme market volatility. So, the message rates that you'll expect to see in the average, like if you took the mean message rate we'll get from an exchange, that's probably around 2,000 a second in terms of price updates. And then I guess the max message rate, which I must admit I haven't done the numbers on this, but you would expect it to be about 100x that. So sort of 200,000. TCP starts dropping, rebroadcasting. A lot of performance does not behave like it usually does, and being able mainly to correlate what's happening on the box with what we're seeing in our in our, I want to say, business metrics is perhaps like the main way in which we've troubleshooted. So an example would be you can have an asset like Bitcoin drop 8% in 5 minutes. That is is a little bit insane to think that this thing 5 minutes ago was perceived as being worth 9% more, 8% or whatever, more than it is now. That obviously has a lot of sort of flow-on effects in the market. It leads to basically everyone sort of repricing everything. Everything just picks up, and so being able to look, okay, well, this is the worst volatility we've seen in 90 days. where did we peak at on CPU usage, on like congestion? We run n cores, we run n sort of exchanges on the same machine. Should we experiment with a higher or lower n, right? And so basically, the fact that the data is persisted means that in the moment you're not looking at these things, right? But the fact you can go back and correlate them lets us, I guess, like we don't use it super deeply, like maybe a lot. Someone like Carel would be probably much more deeper in the data, but we do use it like surface level to say, okay, we had bad performance, like it didn't do what we expected or wanted it to do. Now that could be just because we're bad and we did bad mistakes, but it could also be a resource constraint. And this is really easy to just see, okay, well, let's pull up the second by second data, because yes, markets move fast, but second by second data is still good enough for like broad brushstroke like diagnostics. And a lot of the metrics that the kernel collects are, I guess, higher resolution than second. They're just aggregated up to the second. So it's like a number of interrupts, these sorts of things. And so we can just quickly like, okay, we lost money. Let's check like every time we just check the hardware usage. Did we like mistune something? No, okay, it didn't max out. So it's us that's at fault, not our provisioning. And it's very easy then to know, okay, it's our fault, not like something else, or like I guess technically bad CPU usage can still be your fault, but there can be a number of factors that can also be external there. So that's the main thing, is basically we have a chart that shows how much money we're making. And when that goes down, we immediately pull up the hardware chart and say, okay, is anything broken here? No, not broken. Okay, something else. Let's go deeper. And then that's where like the business metrics come in. Okay, like what prices did we fill at? Or they look a little bit rough. Okay, let's go check out that exchange. Let's stop the trading there and look into like what the raw messages were. And the elk stack, kicks in again. So yeah, it's a pretty I must say, comfortable environment. Like this stuff would be horrifying without the data. Just like looking at a number that is like very one dimensional, like how much money did you make in the last 5 minutes? And it goes up. Okay, that's good. Don't ask too many questions. It goes down. Okay, now you've got to start asking questions, and a lot of them. And I think that data answers a lot of the most like barbaric and simple ones. Like, okay, did something major go wrong on the servers? No. Okay, let's dig into the business metrics.
Yeah, so it allows you to start seeing where you need to look at and what you need to do next to try to
exactly.
avoid it.
It's mainly about eliminating possible, like, because essentially when you see something bad happen in the trading, it could be anything, right? It's like a whodunit. It's like, you ever play Cluedo, like the murder mystery games? It's like, okay, who screwed up? And there's like a lot of code that I've written that is suspect. And the first thing I like to eliminate is make sure it wasn't the hardware. And that usually is the case because we provision pretty conservatively. And it's okay, it wasn't the hardware. Okay, well, what did I screw up? And then we look through the rest of the data.
Makes sense. So yeah, thanks for sharing, Oliver. So we are almost at the end of the time. So let me just quickly open the question to the people on the audience to see if there's anything anybody would like to throw at any of our guests or to me. So let's just give 1 minute or two to see if someone pops up anything.
On that point of Oliver, when I look at Netdata, it allows me to see what I don't need to pay attention to very quickly.
That's a really
it sounds
good way of
bad, but it actually helps you to focus, on the things that you need to focus on. The other things you immediately, can take off the board and say, okay, it's not that.
Yep.
You can ignore the noise, basically.
Yeah, that's the right thing. Yeah.
So I don't see anything else popping up on the chat. So I think everything was very clear, and you guys were very, very detailed on your examples and explanations. So
Cool.
I'll close it here, and thank you again for your time, for being here, and for the participation on this. And really glad that Netdata is helping you and your businesses somehow. So thank you for this.
Not a problem. I'm a great proponent of open source, and if I can help spread the word on Netdata, anytime.
Thank you, Carel. Thank you, Oliver, as well.
I'm a big proponent of stuff that saves my time, and I think the ROI on Netdata has been very high so far. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I haven't contributed back to as much as I'd like to open source, but use a lot of it. Like, all of the stuff we write is self-written, but 90%. I mean, we're mostly just running open source code with a little bit of business layer on top. So yeah, huge.
Cool.
Awesome.
It was
Then,
nice meeting you guys, eh?
thank you.
Likewise, nice
And
meeting you.
see you soon in some other event, maybe.
Not a
Yep.
problem. Cheers,
Bye, guys.
guys.
Bye bye.